The stars were quiet that night. The system was empty, silent, and forgotten, or so everyone believed. No ship had entered this sector in almost 200 years. The maps of the great empires showed this place as abandoned, a colony that had failed and disappeared into dust. No one cared to check again. Why would they? Humanity had been weak back then, fragile settlers in a galaxy ruled by older, stronger races. Everyone thought their colony had died long ago. But the truth was different. Far beyond the reach of scanners, hidden inside the shadow of a red dwarf star, a signal awoke. It was faint at first, like a whisper after centuries of silence. Then it grew stronger, pulsing out into the dark like a heartbeat. Anyone listening would have thought it impossible. The colony was alive. Humanity had not died here. They had endured. On the surface of a cold, rocky planet, a city of steel and fire stretched across the ground. Tall towers rose from black soil. Lights burned against the endless night. It was not the fragile camp that had landed 200 years ago. It was something else now. The people who lived here had changed. They were stronger, harder. They had learned how to survive without help, without allies, without mercy from the galaxy beyond. Captain Elias Ward stood at the edge of the command platform, looking over the massive control hall. Screens glowed with shifting data. Dozens of operators sat in silence, their eyes locked on signals that had just reached them. For the first time in 2 centuries, someone had entered their system. Identification? Elias asked, his voice low but sharp. No match in our database, replied a young officer. Design suggests alien origin. A single scout vessel. Not armed for war. Probably a surveyor. The hall was quiet for a moment. Everyone knew what this meant. If an alien surveyor had found them, then the galaxy would soon know this colony was alive. Their secret would be broken. Elias clenched his fist. For 200 years, they had been forgotten, left to rot. The old empires had written them off as dead. Now, the empires would come back, not with help, but with chains. But Elias was not afraid. He had been raised in this city. He had lived through the long hunger, the winters without fuel, the plagues that had taken thousands. He had seen his people claw their way back from the edge of death. They were not weak settlers anymore. They were human survivors. And survivors did not kneel. Prepare the fleet, Elias said. The words rippled across the command hall. Officers moved fast, signals flashing across networks that stretched through the planet and beyond, to the hidden stations in orbit and the great shipyards in the asteroid belt. For generations, humanity had built in secret, preparing for the day the galaxy found them again. That day had come. High above the planet, ships stirred from their long sleep. They were not like the graceful cruisers of the great alien empires. These ships were brutal, armored giants of steel and fire. Their weapons were forged from old mining lasers, turned into cannons strong enough to melt mountains. Engines burned with the fury of stolen stars. Each ship carried scars from the struggle of creation, but each one was ready for war. On the surface, children looked up at the sky, watching as trails of fire rose into the night. To them, it was normal. They had been raised on stories of how their ancestors had been abandoned. They had been taught that survival was their only victory. Now, for the first time, they would see their city reach beyond their own world. The alien scout did not know what it had found. It drifted closer, scanning the planet with curious beams of light. It expected ruins. It expected silence. Instead, it found power. Its sensors screamed warnings as human warships locked onto it from every angle. Inside the scout ship, the alien crew panicked. Their race had ruled for centuries without challenge. They had crushed human colonies before, long ago. To them, humanity was weak prey. But now, they saw something impossible, a forgotten colony, alive, armed, and stronger than anyone could have imagined. The scout tried to escape. Engines flared. It turned toward the edge of the system, trying to run back and warn its empire. But it was too late. From the shadows of an asteroid, a human warship emerged. Its hull was dark, its weapons glowing with silent fire. One shot burst through the void, cutting across space like a blade of light. The alien scout shuddered. Explosions ripped through its frame. In seconds, the ship was gone, nothing but debris drifting in the dark. Elias watched the readings on his screen. One enemy destroyed. But he knew the real war had not even started. The scout signal might have been sent before it died. The alien empire might already know. The galaxy might already be moving toward them. He looked around at his officers, their faces cold and determined. He remembered the stories of the first settlers, who had come here with dreams of peace and growth. Those dreams had been burned away long ago. What remained now was something stronger. They thought we were gone, Elias said quietly. They thought we were weak. But we are still here. And this time, we will not run. The command hall was silent for a long moment. Then, as one, the officers rose from their stations. Their voices rang out like thunder. Humanity endures. The words echoed across the steel walls, out into the city, into the ships waiting in orbit. The sound spread like fire, carried by every channel, every speaker. For the first time in 2 centuries, the colony spoke as one voice to the stars. Humanity was not gone. Humanity had returned. And the galaxy was about to remember. The wreckage of the alien scout still drifted in the void, glowing faintly as pieces of metal burned in the atmosphere of the red dwarf's smallest planet. For a moment, the system was silent again, as if nothing had happened. But everyone inside the human command center knew the truth. The silence would not last. Captain Elias Ward stood with his hands behind his back, staring at the star map that floated in the air before him. Small lights marked their ships, their stations, their hidden mines. For 200 years, those lights had been the whole world of humanity here. Now, another light blinked at the edge of the map. Unknown, alien, dangerous. Do we have confirmation? Elias asked. A young officer nodded. Yes, Captain. The alien scout transmitted before we destroyed it. The signal was short, but it was strong. Their empire will know we are here. The words felt heavy in the air. Everyone in the command center knew what this meant. The galaxy would come. Armies would march. Fleets would descend. Humanity's secret was broken. But Elias did not look afraid. His voice was steady, cold. Then they will come. And we will be ready. Across the city, preparations began. Factories that had worked in silence for decades now roared with full power. Sparks lit up the night as workers forged weapons, armor, and engines of war. The great shipyards in the asteroid belt came alive, launching vessel after vessel into orbit. The people had trained for this day their whole lives. Children were raised on drills. Adults carried the scars of survival. Now, all of them carried a single purpose: defend the colony, whatever the cost. In the center of the city, deep inside a black tower, the council gathered. They were the oldest and strongest of the survivors, leaders chosen from the blood of those who had fought hardest to keep humanity alive. Their eyes were sharp, their faces hard like stone. Elias stood before them, waiting for their judgment. You destroyed the alien scout, said Counselor Mira, her voice sharp as steel. Good. But the signal was sent. The Empire will send more. Stronger ships. Armies. They will crush us, just as they crushed the old colonies. Perhaps, Elias answered. But we are not the old colonies. We were forged in fire. We have survived 2 centuries of hunger, storms, and plagues. We have no allies, no promises of rescue. We have only ourselves. And that is enough. The council chamber was silent for a moment. Then Counselor Darren, the oldest among them, leaned forward. His eyes were dark, but a faint smile touched his lips. Yes. We are not weak settlers anymore. We are the children of steel and ash. If the Empire comes, let them come. We will show them what humanity has become. Outside the tower, the streets of the city pulsed with life. Families gathered supplies. Soldiers trained in open squares, their boots striking the ground in perfect rhythm. Everywhere, voices repeated the same words: humanity endures. Meanwhile, at the edge of the system, the first alien reinforcements arrived. 3 sleek warships cut through the dark, their hulls shining with the colors of their empire. Their commanders expected ruins, maybe a few survivors. They had no fear. To them, humans were weak prey, forgotten shadows of history. But as their ships entered the orbit of the colony's world, their scanners filled with impossible readings. Power grids larger than cities. Weapon platforms hidden in orbit. A fleet of human warships rising from the planet's shadow. The alien commander narrowed his eyes. "This is not possible," he hissed. It was too late. From the darkness of the asteroid belt, a storm of human ships launched their attack. Missiles streaked across space. Lasers cut through the void. Explosions lit the sky like fire. The first alien warship tried to raise its shields, but the human weapons were relentless, hammering it from every side. The ship burst into flames, breaking apart into burning fragments. The other 2 alien ships returned fire, but the humans did not break. Their ships moved in brutal formations, sacrificing speed for raw firepower. They closed the distance fast, weapons burning white-hot. The second alien warship cracked open under the assault, its crew screaming into the void. Only 1 alien ship remained. It tried to retreat, engines burning at full power. But humanity was faster. A squadron of small strike craft swarmed it, piercing its defenses with focused blasts. The ship's core ignited. In seconds, nothing remained but silence and drifting wreckage. Back on the planet, the people cheered. Children stood on rooftops, pointing at the glowing streaks in the sky. Workers raised their fists. Soldiers stood taller, their eyes fierce. For the first time in 2 centuries, humanity had fought not just to survive, but to win. In the command hall, Elias watched the battle reports. His face was calm, but his heart burned with fire. 3 ships destroyed, he said. And this is only the beginning. They will send more. Larger fleets. Armies. They will not forgive this insult. Then let them come, one officer replied. We are ready. Elias looked at the star map, the blinking light of the destroyed enemy fleet fading away. He knew the Empire would not stop. But he also knew something else. The galaxy had underestimated humanity for the last time. They thought we were gone, Elias whispered. They thought we were weak. Now they will learn the truth. The lights of the city burned brighter than ever. The people sang their old survival songs, their voices echoing through steel streets. Humanity had waited in silence for 200 years. The silence was over. And the war for the galaxy had begun. The wreckage of the second alien fleet drifted at the edge of the system like broken bones. Flames and fragments still glowed in the dark, silent reminders of the battle that had just ended. Humanity had won again. But Captain Elias Ward knew this was not victory. It was only the beginning. He stood at the center of the command hall, eyes fixed on the star map. New signals blinked at the edges, faint but steady. More ships were coming. The alien empire would not stop. They would send fleet after fleet until the humans were crushed, or until the empire itself broke. Report, Elias said, his voice steady. Losses are minor, replied Officer Kale. 2 destroyers damaged, 12 strike craft destroyed. All other ships remain operational. Elias nodded. And the enemy? 3 ships destroyed, Captain. None escaped. The hall was silent for a moment. Victory was sweet, but everyone knew what Elias was thinking. The aliens now understood the colony was not just alive, it was dangerous. And that meant their response would grow larger, faster, and stronger. On the surface of the colony world, the people worked without pause. The streets echoed with the sound of hammers, engines, and drills. New weapons were forged. Children carried supplies. Elders told stories of the first settlers, of the long hunger, of the years when survival had seemed impossible. Now those stories felt alive again, burning in every heart. "Do you think we can hold them?" a young soldier asked his commander as they trained in the square. The commander, a woman with scars across her face, gave a thin smile. "Hold them? No. We will break them." At the edge of the system, hidden stations scanned the stars. 4 days, the galaxy had been silent. Then the warning came, a massive alien fleet, moving fast. 30 warships, heavily armed, with carriers and cruisers at the center. An invasion force. When the report reached Elias, the command hall filled with tension. 30 ships were more than humanity had ever faced. 30, Officer Kale repeated, his face pale. "They will crush us." Elias looked at the star map, his jaw tight. "No. They will bleed. Every ship they send will pay a price." The council gathered again inside their black tower. The air was heavy with smoke and the sound of distant factories. Counselor Mira leaned forward, her eyes sharp. "We cannot meet 30 ships head-on. They will destroy us. We must retreat into the asteroid belt, strike in shadows, bleed them until they cannot fight." "No," Elias said firmly. "If we hide, they will hunt us down one piece at a time. If we run, the people will lose hope. We must fight. Not only to survive, but to show them that humanity will never kneel again." The council was silent. Then the oldest among them, Counselor Darren, spoke. "Elias is right. The Empire must fear us. If they do not fear us, they will never stop." And so the orders were given. In the asteroid belt, hundreds of small strike craft armed themselves for ambush. On the planet, artillery platforms rose from hidden bunkers, their barrels aimed at the sky. In orbit, the great warships of humanity formed their lines, brutal machines of steel, scarred and powerful. When the alien fleet entered the system, the war began. The aliens advanced with arrogance. 30 ships moved in perfect formation, their engines burning bright. They expected a quick slaughter. They expected ruins. Instead, they were met with fire. From the shadows of the asteroid belt, swarms of human strike craft attacked. Missiles cut through space, smashing into alien hulls. Explosions lit the void. The aliens returned fire, shredding dozens of small ships, but every loss was met with another attack. The asteroids themselves became weapons. Massive rocks pushed by hidden engines, crashing into enemy cruisers with unstoppable force. Above the planet, human warships roared forward. Their guns burned white-hot, pouring fire into the enemy lines. The aliens tried to regroup, but humanity pressed harder, closing the distance, striking with savage precision. One alien carrier exploded in a flash of light, its wreckage tearing through nearby ships. A second was crippled by a storm of missiles. The sky burned with war, brighter than the red dwarf star itself. But the cost was heavy. Human ships cracked under enemy fire. Strike craft were torn apart in swarms. On the surface, enemy bombardments rained down, shaking the steel city to its core. Families huddled underground as shockwaves roared above them. In the command hall, Elias stood unshaken. "Do not falter," he said. "We are the storm. Break them." Hours passed. The battle raged without mercy. Finally, the alien fleet began to fracture. Their formation shattered. Their ships burned. 20 destroyed. 5 crippled. The survivors turned and fled, engines blazing. The humans did not chase. They stood their ground, bloodied but unbroken. When silence returned to the system, the colony cheered. Songs of survival turned to songs of victory. The people raised their fists to the sky, shouting the words that now echoed across the stars. "Humanity endures." But Elias did not cheer. He looked at the star map, at the trail of the retreating fleet. He knew they would return. He knew the Empire had not yet shown its full strength. This was not the end. This was only the first real battle. And the war for survival was just beginning. The smoke of battle still lingered in the system, drifting clouds of wreckage glowing faintly in the red dwarf's light. 20 alien ships destroyed. Humanity had stood against a fleet that should have crushed them, and won. But inside the command hall, the mood was not victory. It was silence, heavy and sharp. Everyone knew what would come next. Captain Elias Ward stood before the star map, his eyes fixed on the faint trails of the retreating alien ships. "They will return," he said quietly. "They will return with everything they have." Counselor Myra's voice echoed across the chamber. "You have led us well, Captain. But now the Empire knows. They know we are not just survivors. They know we can fight. That means their answer will be greater than anything we have faced." Elias nodded. "And that is exactly what we want. Let them bring everything. Let them bleed on our walls." The people of the colony did not rest. Factories burned through the night, pouring smoke into the sky as they built weapons faster than ever before. Engineers rewired engines, soldiers trained without pause, children carried supplies through the steel streets. The city had no peace now. It was a fortress, preparing for the storm. But not everyone was ready to fight forever. In the council chambers, arguments grew hotter with each passing hour. Some wanted to strengthen defenses and wait for the Empire's next attack. Others wanted something different. Strike out. Leave the system. Carry the war into the galaxy itself. "We cannot stay here and wait for the hammer to fall," said Councillor Darren, his old voice sharp. "The Empire will gather fleets of hundreds. We will be buried under their fire. But if we strike their borders, if we attack their worlds, they will learn to fear us. Fear will be our weapon." Mira shook her head. "You are mad. To leave this system is to risk everything. Here we are strong. Here we are hidden. Out there, we are exposed." The council turned to Elias. His decision would shape their fate. He stood silent for a long moment, his hands resting on the steel table. Then he said, "We cannot stay here forever. If we wait, they will come with more ships than we can fight. We must show them that this war will not be fought only in our skies. It will burn in theirs." The decision was made. Humanity would not only defend. Humanity would strike. In the great shipyards, a fleet was prepared. 20 warships armed to the teeth, forged from centuries of hidden labor. Hundreds of strike craft, fast and brutal. They were not polished, not graceful like alien cruisers, but each ship carried the soul of survival. Before the fleet departed, Elias stood before the people in the central square. Tens of thousands filled the streets, their eyes fixed on him. He raised his voice so all could hear. "For 2 centuries, they thought we were gone. They thought humanity had died. But we endured. We survived when no one believed we could. And now the galaxy knows we live." The crowd roared. "They will come again, with fleets larger than ever before. But we will not wait like prey in a cage. We will not wait for the hammer to fall. We will strike. We will carry this war to their worlds, to their gates, to their very hearts. And when they see us, they will know the truth." His voice thundered across the square. "Humanity endures." The crowd screamed the words back to him, their voices shaking the air. That night, the fleet left the system. Engines roared as ships rose from the surface, their trails of fire cutting through the sky. Families watched in silence, some with tears, some with pride. No one knew if the fleet would return. But all of them knew why it had to go. The journey was long. Through the dark void, the human fleet moved in silence, following the signal trail of the retreating aliens. Days passed in endless black. The crews trained, repaired, sharpened their weapons. Elias walked among them, speaking little, his presence alone enough to steal their hearts. Finally, the target appeared, a border system of the alien empire. A small world, but important, rich in fuel, defended by stations and patrol fleets. It was the kind of world the Empire believed safe, untouchable. The humans attacked without warning. Missiles streaked through the void. Stations exploded in fire. Alien patrol ships scrambled, but they were torn apart before they could form defense. Human warships pushed forward, brutal and unstoppable, their guns cutting through anything in their path. On the planet below, the aliens watched in horror as fire rained from the sky. For the first time in centuries, the Empire's people saw their walls burn. When it was over, the human fleet did not stay. They struck hard, then vanished back into the dark, leaving only wreckage and flames behind. A message was broadcast across the system, in simple words, in every frequency the aliens could hear. We are humanity. We are not gone. We endure. Panic spread through the Empire. Worlds whispered of the ghosts of humans returned, stronger than ever. Fear began to grow where once there had been only arrogance. And in the command hall of the colony, Elias watched the reports come in. The first strike was a success. But he knew this was only the beginning. The Empire was vast. The war ahead would be long. But humanity was no longer hiding. Humanity was no longer prey. And soon, the galaxy would understand the cost of underestimating mankind. The border world still burned. Towers of smoke rose into the sky, the ruins glowing like dying embers. The alien empire had never seen anything like it. Humans, thought lost for centuries, striking with fury and vanishing before the empire could respond. In their grand halls, the empire's rulers raged. Messages spread through their fleets. The humans are alive. They are dangerous. They will not stay in the shadows. Panic stirred across border systems. Colonies whispered of ghosts in the night, of human ships appearing without warning, leaving only wreckage behind. But in the human fleet, there was no fear. Inside the flagship Iron Resolve, Captain Elias Ward stood at the center of the command deck, watching the star map shift with each new signal. Their strike had been a success, but he knew the Empire's answer would be fast, and it would be brutal. Enemy transmissions are flooding the sector, Officer Kale reported. They're calling for reinforcements. They'll send fleets larger than anything we've seen. Elias nodded slowly. His voice was calm, even quiet. Good. The more they send, the more they bleed. The crew exchanged looks. Their captain's words were steady, but each of them knew the truth. They had won a battle, not the war. The Empire's true power had not yet arrived. The human fleet moved in silence, jumping between systems, hitting supply depots, fuel stations, and outposts. Each attack was fast, sharp, and merciless. They never lingered. They struck, then vanished into the dark, leaving fear behind. But with every strike, the risk grew greater. Enemy patrols began to tighten their nets. Traps were laid in empty systems. And one day, the humans found themselves caught. It happened in a barren sector of space, a place of dust and rock. The human fleet dropped from jump, expecting another outpost. Instead, the void lit up with fire. Dozens of alien ships surrounded them, weapons already armed. "Ambush!" shouted Kale. The first blasts shook the Iron Resolve. Human shields flared, groaning under the impact. Explosions lit up the fleet as smaller strike craft burned. Elias stood tall, gripping the steel railing. His voice cut through the chaos. "Do not break. Close ranks. Fight through." The humans answered with fire. Missiles roared into the void, tearing through alien ships. Lasers cut across space, burning holes in enemy armor. Human strike craft swarmed like wasps, darting between massive cruisers, delivering death in quick bursts. The battle was savage. For every alien ship destroyed, a human vessel burned. Explosions shook the sector, turning the empty void into a storm of light. "Shields failing," a crew member shouted. "We can't hold much longer." "Then we will break them before we fall," Elias answered. The Iron Resolve surged forward, its massive cannons glowing white-hot. It struck the enemy flagship head-on, guns roaring, missiles slamming into its hull. The alien ship cracked open, flames bursting from its core. The fleet around it faltered. For the first time in the battle, the ambushers lost their formation. Human ships pressed the attack. Scarred and burning, they pushed through the enemy line. One by one, alien ships fell, until the survivors turned and fled into the void. Silence returned, broken only by the crackle of damaged systems and the cries of the wounded. Inside the command deck, smoke hung in the air. Sparks fell from broken panels. Officers worked frantically to stabilize systems. "Report," Elias demanded. "6 warships lost," Kale said grimly. "Dozens of strike craft gone. Half the fleet damaged." The words were heavy. The fleet had survived, but at a terrible cost. Elias closed his eyes for a moment, then spoke. "Mark this day. We bleed, yes. But so do they. And if they think this battle will end us, they are wrong. Humanity does not end. Humanity endures." The words spread across the battered ships. Crews lifted their heads, their eyes hard despite the pain. The fire inside them did not die. Back in the colony, news of the ambush reached the people. There was grief, but there was also pride. Families spoke of sons and daughters who had fallen, not as victims, but as warriors. The songs of survival grew louder, carried through the steel streets. Humanity endures. But in the Empire, fear turned to rage. The ambush had failed. Their losses were heavy. The rulers now demanded total war. Fleets were gathered from across the stars. Armies were mobilized. The order was given: find the human colony. Burn it to ashes. Leave nothing alive. In the command deck of the Iron Resolve, Elias studied the reports. His fleet was damaged, his people exhausted, but his eyes were cold and unyielding. "They will come for us with everything they have," he said. "And when they do, they will find we are ready. They will learn what it means to fight humanity." The stars outside the viewport burned faintly, quiet and endless. But Elias knew that silence would not last. The storm was coming. And this time, it would decide the fate of more than a single colony. It would decide the future of the galaxy itself. The Empire's fleets were on the move. Across dozens of systems, warships gathered like storm clouds. Carriers, cruisers, battleships, hundreds of them, formed into armadas that darkened the stars. Their rulers gave a single command: erase humanity. Leave no survivors. In the colony, the news spread quickly. Scouts had intercepted enemy transmissions. The full weight of the Empire was coming, and there would be no escape. Inside the Black Tower at the heart of the Steel City, the council gathered. The air was tense, the sound of distant factories humming through the walls. Faces were grim, but none looked away. "They are coming with everything," Councillor Mira said, her voice sharp. "We cannot match their numbers. Even with all our ships, even with all our fire, we will be crushed." Councillor Darren leaned forward, his old eyes burning with fire. "Then we do not fight them in numbers. We fight them with everything else. We fight them with traps, with fire, with the fury of 2 centuries of survival. If this is to be our end, then let it be one the galaxy will never forget." All eyes turned to Captain Elias Ward. He stood silent, his jaw tight, his hands resting on the steel table. He had seen the battles. He had seen the cost. And he knew the truth. This fight was not just survival anymore. This fight was destiny. "We cannot run," Elias said, his voice steady. "We cannot hide. If we fall, humanity falls with us. But if we stand, if we fight with all we have, then even if we die, the galaxy will know what it means to face mankind." The council gave its answer in one voice. "Then we fight." The colony became a fortress. In orbit, massive defense platforms powered up, their guns glowing white-hot. In the asteroid belt, hidden engines moved rocks into position, ready to crash into enemy fleets. On the planet, artillery rose from bunkers, aiming skyward. The people prepared as well. Soldiers marched through the streets. Engineers worked day and night to repair the damaged fleet. Families carried supplies into the bunkers deep below the surface. The city was alive with one purpose: endure. Children painted words on the steel walls, words that echoed everywhere: humanity endures. Days passed in silence. The red dwarf burned quietly, as if waiting. And then, at last, the enemy came. The first sensors lit up with impossible readings. Hundreds of ships entered the system, their engines glowing like suns. The Empire had arrived. Inside the command hall, officers watched the star map fill with hostile signals. The sight would have broken weaker men. But Elias stood tall, his eyes cold. "Signal the fleet," he ordered. "To every ship, every station, every soldier. Today, humanity fights for its future." The message carried through the system. Across warships and defense stations, across bunkers and trenches, voices repeated the same words. Humanity endures. The Empire struck first. Beams of fire lanced across the void, tearing into the asteroid belt. Explosions rocked the dark as entire stations were vaporized. The sky burned with falling debris. But humanity answered. The asteroids moved, crashing into alien ships with unstoppable force. Mines hidden in the belt exploded in chains of fire, ripping apart cruisers. The first line of the Empire faltered under the storm. Then the human fleet charged. Scarred and battered from past battles, their ships roared forward with savage power. Missiles streaked into the void. Cannons burned white-hot. Strike craft swarmed like angry wasps. The battle shook the system. Dozens of alien ships were destroyed in the first hour, but dozens of humans fell with them. Explosions lit the void like dying stars. On the surface, enemy bombardments rained down. The city shook, towers crumbling, streets breaking apart. But underground, the people sang. Their voices echoed through the bunkers, steady and strong. Humanity endures. Inside the iron resolve, Elias watched the chaos unfold. "Hold the line," he said. "Do not let them pass." His officers obeyed, even as the ship groaned under enemy fire. Flames licked the walls, sparks rained from broken panels, but still they fought. Hours passed. The enemy pressed harder, wave after wave, but the humans did not yield. Defense platforms burned, warships cracked apart, but every loss was met with fire. At last, the Empire's flagship entered the field. A colossal vessel, larger than any human ship, its weapons glowing like suns. It moved slowly, but with unstoppable force, cutting through the human lines. The command hall shook as its first blast tore through a human cruiser, vaporizing it in an instant. Officers paled, but Elias's voice cut through the fear. "That ship is the heart of their fleet," he said. "If it falls, they will break. All forces, focus fire." Human ships turned their guns, pouring everything into the flagship. Missiles, lasers, cannons, all struck at once. Explosions scarred its armor, flames burst across its hull, but still it moved forward, its weapons roaring. Shields collapsing. Cale shouted. Elias gripped the steel railing. His eyes were locked on the burning monster ahead. This was it, the moment that would decide everything. "Then we bleed it dry," Elias said. "All ships, attack." The fleet obeyed, charging into the storm. The void lit up brighter than the star itself. The Empire's flagship burned like a wounded beast. Flames erupted across its massive hull, but still it pressed forward, its weapons tearing through human ships one by one. The void was chaos, explosions, shattered metal, drifting wreckage. Hundreds of ships were gone. The battle had become a storm of fire. Inside the iron resolve, Captain Elias Ward stood firm. The command deck shook with every hit, but his eyes never left the massive enemy ahead. "Status," he demanded. "Shields gone," Cale shouted over the roar of alarms. "Weapons overheating. Engines failing. We can't hold much longer." Elias's voice was steady. "We don't need much longer. We just need one chance." The human fleet closed in, pouring everything into the flagship. Missiles streaked across the void, carving deep wounds in its armor. Strike craft dove at suicidal angles, exploding against its hull to weaken it further. Still, the alien ship advanced, unstoppable, its guns burning brighter than the star itself. In the colony below, the ground shook as enemy bombardments struck the city. Towers fell, steel streets cracked open, flames rose into the night. But the people refused to break. Deep underground, families sang louder, voices defiant against the thunder of war. Humanity endures. Humanity endures. The words carried through comms, through radios, through every ship in the fleet. Soldiers heard them. Pilots heard them. And their eyes burned brighter. "Captain," Cale said desperately, "if we don't fall back, we'll lose everything." Elias shook his head. His voice was quiet but strong. "No. If we fall back, humanity dies. We end this now." He turned to his crew. "Prepare ramming speed." The words froze the command hall. Ramming meant death. But no one hesitated. They had survived 2 centuries of fire. They would not stop now. The iron resolve surged forward, its engines burning hotter than ever before. The alien flagship loomed ahead, its weapons tearing through space, but Elias did not flinch. His crew followed his command without fear. "Lock course," Elias ordered. "Course locked," Cale answered, his voice steady now. "Divert all power to engines," Elias said. "And prepare the core." The crew went silent. They understood. The iron resolve would not just ram, it would detonate its reactor, unleashing enough fire to tear the flagship apart. It was a death blow. Alarms screamed as the alien flagship targeted them. Blasts ripped across the hull. Fire filled the command hall. Officers fell, consoles exploded, but still the ship charged. Elias gripped the railing, his voice thundering over the chaos. "For 2 centuries, we were forgotten. They thought we were gone. They thought we were weak. But today," his voice rose like fire. "Today, the galaxy remembers humanity." The crew shouted with him. "Humanity endures." The iron resolve slammed into the alien flagship. Metal screamed as the 2 giants collided. For a brief instant, silence fell. Then the human reactor detonated. The explosion was a star. Light brighter than anything the red dwarf had ever seen tore through the void. The alien flagship split apart, flames consuming it from within. The shockwave ripped through the enemy fleet, shattering ships, scattering the survivors in panic. On the planet below, the night sky lit up like dawn. The people looked up from the burning streets, their eyes wide, their voices rising together as they saw the impossible, the Empire's heart destroyed. The battle was over. The alien fleet broke. Survivors fled into the dark, leaving wreckage behind. The humans stood bloodied, scarred, and broken, but unbowed. News of the battle spread faster than light. Across the Empire, whispers became roars. The humans had destroyed an armada. They had destroyed the flagship. They had done what no one believed possible. Fear spread through the Empire's worlds, and with fear came doubt. In the colony, silence fell at last. Fires still burned, towers still lay in ruins, but the people lifted their voices as one. Humanity endures. And in that moment, they knew the truth. This was not the end. This was the beginning. Elias Ward was gone, his ship a burning memory in the stars, but his words lived on. His sacrifice had given them victory, and his defiance had given them a future. From that day forward, the galaxy would no longer see humanity as prey. They would see them as survivors, as warriors, as a people who could not be erased. The colony stood battered but alive. The fleet was broken but unyielding. And the fire of mankind now burned brighter than ever. The Empire had thought humanity was gone. They had thought the colony was nothing. But they were wrong. Humanity had returned.